I opened the door with gravy on my shirt and a pie still cooling on the counter, and there she was, my sister, Erin, holding a casserole dish like it was her ticket to redemption, and standing beside her, half in shadow, was my 15-year-old son, Josh. I hadn't seen Erin in 5 years. Josh had never even met her. And yet, there they were, like a package deal I didn't order. My stomach tightened. My hand gripped the doorknob like it might save me. For a split second, I considered shutting the door. Not slamming it. Just closing it. Quietly. Like undoing a mistake before it got all the way in. Then she said something that knocked the air right out of me. He invited me. And Josh just stood there, hands in his pockets, not denying it. I looked at him, at the kid I'd raised alone, who suddenly felt like a stranger with secrets. Then back at Erin. She looked older. Or maybe just tired. My chest burned. With what? Anger? Sadness? Fear? I didn't know. But I let them in. Not because I wanted to. Because it was freezing. Because Josh looked like he was caught between guilt and something else I couldn't name. And because part of me, the part I'd buried under 5 years of silence, wanted to know what she looked like when she walked back into my life uninvited. I watched him shrug off his jacket and follow Erin into the kitchen, chatting like this wasn't the emotional equivalent of a landmine. She even kissed the top of his head, like she'd earned that right. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey, but suddenly it all felt off. Wrong. Like someone had slipped a different song into a familiar playlist. I stood in the hallway, listening. She asked if he was still into guitar. If he still played that old Fleetwood Mac record on repeat. He laughed. Said yeah. Said he'd sent her a video last week. I didn't know that. Didn't know they'd been talking. Sharing things. Building a quiet bridge behind my back. And God help me, I felt jealous. Of my own sister. That night, the table was full. My friend Mike came with his wife and their twins. My neighbor Maria brought a store-bought pie and the kind of laughter that fills silence like warm syrup. Erin sat across from me. Josh between us. And for a second, just one, it looked like a postcard. But underneath the clinking glasses and second helpings, I felt it. That slow, creeping tension of things unsaid. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the house had gone quiet again, I found Josh in the hallway, picking at the last of the pie with a fork. Can we talk a minute? I asked. He looked up, unsure, maybe even nervous. I leaned against the fridge, crossed my arms. You invited her, I said, behind my back. He didn't deny it, just stared at the plate in his hand like it held better answers than I did. You could have told me, Josh, I added, softer. I deserve that much. I didn't know how he muttered. Try scared. I would have understood that. I let out a breath. I'm not mad you wanted to know her, I said, but I am hurt you didn't trust me enough to tell me. You and me, it's always been the two of us. We've been through a lot together. I thought we were past secrets. He looked up then, eyes glassy. I didn't want to hurt you. And yet here we are, I said, not cruel, just tired. I walked over, put a hand on his shoulder. Next time, just talk to me. No more back doors. Deal. He nodded. Deal. After dessert, Erin pulled me aside, said we needed to talk. I followed her out to the porch, arms crossed against the cold. She didn't ease into it. Erin never did. He's the one who found me, she said. He messaged me on Facebook. Asked if we could talk. I stared at her. He told me you wouldn't understand, she added. Said you were still mad. That you'd never let him see me if you knew. That one hurt. Because it wasn't true. Or maybe it was. Maybe I had let the past bleed into places it didn't belong. He just wanted to know where he came from, she said quietly. More than your side of the story. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about family or forgiveness. It was about a boy, my boy, trying to find something I hadn't realized he was missing. Something I might have kept from him without even knowing. And in that moment, I didn't know what scared me more. That Erin had come back. Or that Josh had gone looking for her. I didn't sleep that night. Not because Erin was under my roof. I could stomach that. Barely. But because Josh wasn't in his room. He'd fallen asleep on the couch, sprawled out with a blanket and a dog-eared notebook beside him. I picked it up to set it on the coffee table, but something about the way it was creased. I flipped it open, and there they were. Letters. Not to me. Not to his mom. To Erin. Some he'd mailed, some he hadn't. Some were full of questions about her, about our parents, about me. One line stuck in my throat like a splinter. Dad doesn't talk about you. I think it hurts him, but maybe it hurts me too. I sat there, staring at that sentence like it might change if I just read it enough. And it made me wonder, When had I started protecting Josh from my pain instead of sharing it with him? When had silence become the easier answer? The next morning, Erin was already in the kitchen. Coffee made, sleeves rolled up, like she belonged there. I walked in, nodded. She didn't push. Just poured me a cup like we were back to being siblings who trusted each other with burned toast and bad news. I read one of his letters, I said. She looked up, but didn't look surprised. He's been sending them for over a year, she said softly. First ones were short. Just, "Hi, I'm Josh. I think I'm your nephew." Then he started asking about when we were kids. About Dad. About what made us stop talking. I let that sit between us. He wanted to know if the stories he hears from you are the same ones I remember, she added. And when they weren't, he started asking better questions. That part hit hard. Because I hadn't lied to Josh. But maybe I hadn't told the full truth either. I'd told him Erin was distant. That we'd fallen out. That family stuff got complicated. But I hadn't told him about the shouting match in Mom's hospital room. About the lawyers. The screaming. The way Erin walked out with her coat still open and didn't come back. I thought I was shielding him. Turns out, I was starving him of something vital. Context. Later that afternoon, Erin offered to take a walk with me. Just the two of us. I almost said no. But something in her tone made me pause. We walked down the street in silence for a while. Just leaves crunching under our feet and the wind rattling the bare trees like they were trying to whisper something. Then she said, "Do you remember that trip to Lake Arrowhead? When we got snowed in?" I did. I was 17. She was 15. We'd gotten stuck at that rundown lodge with vending machine dinners and one TV channel. "You gave me your coat," she said, "and told me you'd always have my back." I nodded. "You were freezing. You were too. But you didn't say that." We stopped walking. She turned to me, eyes brighter than I remembered. "I never stopped wanting that version of you," she said, "even after everything. But when Dad died, and I saw how he left things, I felt erased. And I blamed you. You think I wanted what he did?" I snapped, voice sharper than I meant. "You think I asked him to cut you out?" She didn't flinch. "I think you didn't fight hard enough to keep me in." That quieted me. Because maybe she was right. After the will, after all the anger, I'd let her disappear. I decided it was easier that way. I didn't chase her. And now, 5 years later, my son had done what I couldn't. Reach out. We got back to the house and found Josh in the garage, strumming his beat-up acoustic guitar. He didn't stop when we walked in. Just played softer, like he knew we were listening. Erin smiled. "That song," she said. "Is that the one I sent you?" Josh nodded. And I stood there, realizing something that made my chest ache. They'd built something real. A relationship stitched together through stories, old songs, letters sent across a void I'd let grow too wide. And I had two choices now. Shut it down out of fear, or step into the space they'd opened. That night, after everyone had gone home and the dishes were finally done, I sat across from Josh and said, "Tell me what you know about her. What she told you." He looked at me, nervous. "She said you used to protect her," he whispered. "But then life made that harder." I nodded. "That's true. Is she lying about what happened?" I shook my head slowly. "She's not lying," I said. "But she's not telling all of it either. And maybe neither have I." He sat back, arms crossed. "I just wanted to know who she was," he said. "And who you were before everything." And that was the moment I realized what Josh had really been looking for wasn't Erin. It was the me I used to be. The brother who gave his coat away in the snow. I owed it to him to find that man again. Not just for Erin, but for us. For me. The next morning, I found Erin in the garage. Josh had gone to his mom's for the weekend, and the house was quiet again, but I'd noticed the guitar was missing. And sure enough, there she was, sitting on the workbench, his acoustic in her lap. She wasn't playing it, just holding it, like it was something sacred. She looked up and said, "I didn't expect to feel this much." I didn't answer right away, just leaned against the doorframe and watched her. "I used to imagine," she said, "what it would be like if I showed up again. I thought maybe you'd slam the door. Or maybe we'd yell until we were too tired to keep it going. I didn't think I'd be welcomed in with turkey and pie." I laughed once, a short, tired sound. "You weren't exactly welcomed," I said. "Josh just dragged you through the front door before I had time to figure out what was happening." She smiled. "Fair." Then her voice softened. "He's good, Tom. You raised him right." I didn't know what to do with that. Because I hadn't raised him alone. There were teachers, coaches, Maria next door, who helped with homework when I worked late. And, apparently, Erin, from a distance. In letters. In whispers I didn't hear. I sat down across from her, the workbench between us like a boundary we weren't sure how to cross. "Why now?" I asked. She ran her hand across the guitar strings, slow, like she was testing their strength. "Because he asked," she said. "And because I missed you more than I wanted to admit." I looked down at my hands. Grease-stained, calloused. The kind of hands that fix engines but drop the ball on emotional repairs. "I was angry," I said. "For a long time." "So was I," she replied. "But grief twists things. Makes monsters out of people just trying to survive." And she was right. When Dad died, we all broke differently. I threw myself into responsibility, funeral arrangements, legal documents, mortgage payments. She shut down, pulled away, refused to believe the man we both loved could have written a will so cruel. But he had. And instead of standing shoulder to shoulder in that storm, we turned on each other. I cleared my throat. "I blamed you for a long time. Thought you were selfish. That you only came around when it benefited you." Erin didn't flinch. "Maybe I was," she said. "But I never stopped being your sister. Even when I didn't feel like I was allowed to be." I looked at her then. Really looked. And I saw the years in her face. Not just age, but ache. The kind that comes from family wounds that scab over without healing. "I don't know how to fix this," I admitted. "Maybe we don't," she said. "Maybe we just start again." We sat in silence for a while. Then she said, "There's something else you should know." And that's when I felt the first ripple of something deeper. A shift in her voice. A tightening behind her words. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Addressed in Josh's handwriting. "He sent this a month ago," she said. "Said I should give it to you if things went okay." I took it. Didn't open it right away. Just held it in my hands like it might crack under pressure. She stood up. "I'll give you some space," she said. "But before I go, I need to say this. Whatever comes next, I'm here. I'm not disappearing again." Then she walked out of the garage, left me with the letter and the weight of a son's hope folded into an envelope. I opened it slowly. Inside was one page. It started with, "Dear Dad, please don't be mad." And just like that, my heart cracked. He wrote about how he found Erin online, how he watched old home videos when he thought I was asleep, how he recognized her voice before he knew her name, how he'd been trying to understand why someone so important had disappeared from his life. Then this. "I know you had your reasons. I know it's complicated, but I just wanted to know her. And maybe, I wanted to see if there's a part of you in her that you don't show me." He ended it with, "If this doesn't work out, I'm sorry. But I needed to try. And maybe we all do." I folded the letter, put it in my back pocket, and sat there in that garage, watching the light shift through dusty windows, realizing something I should have known long ago. Josh wasn't picking sides. He was picking wholeness. He wasn't trying to bring Erin back for her sake. He was trying to bring me back to a version of myself I'd lost, the one who still believed family could be hard and honest at the same time. And that's when I knew. Thanksgiving hadn't been ruined. It had been rewritten. Now it was up to me to turn the next page. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, I found myself standing outside Erin's hotel. Not by accident. I'd asked Josh where she was staying, and he'd told me. Quietly, carefully, like he wasn't sure if I was asking as a father or a brother. I wasn't sure either. She came down to the lobby wrapped in a coat I remembered from a decade ago, navy blue, fraying at the sleeves. The same coat she wore the day Dad told us about his cancer. Funny how memory sticks to fabric like that. She looked surprised to see me. Not suspicious, surprised. I nodded toward the sidewalk. "Walk with me." She tucked her hands into her pockets and fell in step beside me. The cold had settled in for real. You could see your breath in the air. The kind of morning that stung your cheeks and made everything feel sharper. We walked in silence for a while, just the crunch of frost beneath our boots. "Finally," I said, "I read Josh's letter." She didn't respond right away, just kept walking, eyes on the horizon like it held answers. "I've spent so much time trying to be a good dad," I continued. "Protect him. Keep things stable. I thought if I kept the bad stuff out, he'd grow up safe." Erin let out a soft breath. "But safe isn't the same as whole," she said. And there it was. The truth, spoken like a pin through the heart of my intentions. I stopped walking, turned to face her. "I don't forgive you yet," I said. "Not fully. There's too much still sitting between us. But I think I want to." Her eyes met mine. No tears. Just that steady Erin gaze, the one that always saw more than I meant to show. "I never came back expecting forgiveness," she said. "I came back because I missed my family. Even the parts that hurt. I nodded. We walked a little farther. Then I said something I hadn't planned. Stay through the weekend. Come to Sunday dinner. She blinked. What? I make chili. Cornbread. Josh always tries to beat me in Monopoly after. Her mouth twitched like it wanted to smile but wasn't sure it had permission. You sure? Stay through the weekend. Come to Sunday dinner. She blinked. What? I make chili. Cornbread. Josh always tries to beat me in Monopoly after. Her mouth twitched like it wanted to smile but wasn't sure it had permission. You sure? She hesitated, eyes flicking down, then up again. Because I don't think I could take it, she said quietly. If you changed your mind. If I showed up and found the door locked. That stopped me. I wasn't, I finally said. But I said, yeah, I'm sure. Sunday rolled around slow and quiet. Josh helped me cook. Set the table with 3 plates instead of 2. He didn't ask why. He just smiled and said, should I get the Monopoly board ready? Erin arrived right on time. Not a minute early or late. She brought apple cider and a pie that smelled like cinnamon and second chances. We sat down together like people still figuring out how to breathe the same air without flinching. Dinner was normal. Shockingly, heartbreakingly normal. Josh talked about school. Erin asked about his music. I made a joke about her burning toast in '98, and she shot me a look like she might actually laugh. It wasn't perfect, but it was possible. After dinner, Josh disappeared to set up the game. Erin helped me with dishes. We stood side by side, rinsing plates, passing them wordlessly. At one point, I handed her a dish towel, and our hands brushed. She flinched, just slightly. But I caught it. Still uncomfortable? I asked, maybe sharper than I meant. She looked at me. Wouldn't you be? I didn't answer. Just turned back to the sink. We worked in silence for another minute, the kind that isn't peaceful, just tight. Then, halfway through drying a mug, she said, Dad didn't know how to love us both. I looked at her. He wanted to, she added. But he didn't know how. You were the dutiful one. I was the messy one. And somewhere along the way, he decided love had to be earned. It was the first time either of us had said it out loud. I nodded. Slowly. He hurt us both, I said. But we hurt each other more, she replied. And there it was. The center of it all. Grief made us brittle. Made us believe that pain had to belong to someone. That blame could be the bomb. But it wasn't. It never was. Later that night, I stood at the door as she packed up to leave. She looked at me, hesitated, then said, You ever think we might have turned out better if we hadn't been raised in silence? I nodded. Every day. She opened the door. Cold air rushed in. Then she turned back, eyes glassy but fierce. Don't raise him that way, Tom. Let him know the mess. The real stories. The parts that ache. He deserves all of it. I nodded again. And she left. Not like she had 5 years ago. This time, she looked back. Just once. Just enough. A week after that dinner, I found the photo album. It was buried in the hall closet, behind a stack of winter blankets and a half-broken snow shovel I kept meaning to fix. I wasn't looking for it. I was just trying to find a scarf. Funny how grief leaves breadcrumbs you don't realize you're following. I sat down on the hallway floor and opened it right there, cross-legged like I was 10 years old again. First page, Erin and me in matching Halloween costumes. I was a pirate. She was a cat. Our mom's handwriting labeled it, 89, sugar highs and plastic swords. Flip. Our dad, on the porch, holding Erin up so she could put the star on the tree. Flip. The two of us at Lake Arrowhead, snow in our hair, cheeks pink, Erin mid-laugh. And then, nothing for a long stretch. A visual silence that mirrored our own. The gap after the will. After the funeral. After we stopped reaching. Josh walked past and paused. Who's that? He asked, pointing to a photo of Erin at maybe 17, curled up in Dad's old chair with a book in her lap. Your aunt, I said. Back when she still lived here. He crouched down beside me. She looks like me, he whispered. He was right. Same jawline. Same serious brow. Same quiet intensity. She used to read to me when I was little, I said. Taught me how to climb the tree in our backyard. Once convinced me we could dig to China with a spoon. He grinned. Did you? We hit a sprinkler pipe. He laughed, that real, belly-deep kind of laugh that shakes the air. And just like that, something cracked open inside me. I closed the album and looked at him. You've got questions, I said. About her. About what happened. Josh didn't say anything. Just waited. So I told him. The whole thing. About the will. The arguments. The lines we drew and refused to erase. about how sometimes love gets so tangled in pride, it stops looking like love at all. He didn't flinch, didn't judge. He just nodded, like a kid who'd already guessed more than I'd admitted. "I'm sorry," I said finally, "for keeping that part of your family from you." "I don't blame you," he replied, "but I'm glad I met her. I think we both needed to." The next day, Erin texted. Just a photo, a bracelet I'd made her when we were kids, red and blue beads, spelling out her name in crooked plastic letters. She found it in an old coat pocket. "Still fits," she wrote. I stared at it longer than I should have. A week later, she asked if we could meet at Mom's old house. It had been vacant for a while. Renters came and went, never staying long. I still had the spare key. The new tenants were out of town for the holidays, and Erin wanted one last look. I hesitated, but I said yes. We met there on a Sunday. The place smelled like dust and old paint. The furniture was gone, but the bones were still familiar, the creak in the second stair, the scratch in the kitchen tile from when Dad dropped the skillet. We walked through each room slowly. She stopped in the hallway, placed her hand on the doorframe where our heights had been penciled in year after year. "I always thought I'd bring my kids here one day," she said. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just stood beside her. "Do you ever think," she asked, "if we'd done one thing differently, we could have saved it?" I shook my head. "No, but I think we can still save this," I said. "Us." She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time since we were teenagers sneaking ice cream past bedtime, she smiled without a wall behind it. We left that house without words. Just a shared understanding that maybe the past didn't need to be rewritten. Just respected, remembered, mourned, but not carried alone. That night, Josh asked if Erin would be at Christmas. I paused. The question sat heavier than I expected. I looked at my phone on the counter, screen dark, contact saved but unopened. I thought about the pie, the flinch, the dish towel, about the letter. Then I picked it up, typed, "If I invited you for Christmas, would you come?" A minute passed, then another. I nearly locked the screen. Then it buzzed. Her reply was short. "Are you sure?" And all I wrote back was, "Yes." Then I looked at Josh. "Yeah," I said. "I think she will." And it felt right. Not because everything was healed, but because we'd finally stopped pretending it didn't need to be. Christmas morning came quiet and bright, the kind of cold that made the windows fog, but not your hope. I woke up early, as always. Made coffee. Set out the cinnamon rolls Josh liked, the ones from the can, nothing fancy, but somehow they'd become tradition. The tree blinked in the corner, ornaments a little lopsided, but proudly hung. There were fewer gifts this year, but more presents, the kind that doesn't come in wrapping paper. Josh came down the stairs with sleep still in his eyes. He stopped halfway down and asked, like it was casual, like it wasn't carrying the weight of everything we'd lived through, "Is she coming?" I just nodded. He didn't say anything else, just smiled and kept coming down the stairs. Erin arrived an hour later. No fanfare, no big entrance. Just her, in a red coat, a scarf I recognized from way back, and a smile that carried both nerves and grace. She had a gift bag in one hand. Nothing dramatic, just a square box wrapped with more care than cost. She handed it to Josh and said, "This one's from both of us." He opened it slowly. Inside was a leather journal, blank pages, clean and waiting. Tucked inside the front cover was a photo. The three of us, from Thanksgiving. Josh in the middle, arms over both our shoulders. Slightly out of focus, but real. Real in the way family sometimes is. Imperfect, still learning, stitched together by choice. Josh looked up. "Thanks." Erin just nodded, eyes wet but not falling apart. We spent the day like people who knew what they'd almost lost. There was laughter. Not loud, not constant, but real. I made a joke about her overcooked green beans from 2007, and she threw a balled-up napkin at me. Josh played guitar by the fire, and we listened like it was the first time. It wasn't, but this time, we heard him. That evening, after the plates were cleared and the sky turned that soft winter blue, Erin pulled me aside. Said she was heading out in the morning, back to her place. Just for now. I asked if she'd stay for New Year's. She said maybe. Then she paused, looked down, and handed me a small envelope. "Open it later," she said. She hugged Josh goodbye. No words, just that long kind of hug that says, "I'm here now, and I'm not leaving again." After she left, I sat down on the couch. Josh was upstairs. The house was quiet. I opened the envelope. It was a photo. Old. Faded around the edges. Erin and me, maybe 10 and 12. Sitting on the porch steps of our childhood home. She's holding a popsicle. I've got a bandage on my knee. We're both laughing. Taped to the back was a note, written in her handwriting. Thanks for letting me come home. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about forgiveness. This was about reclamation. About saying, we were broken, but not beyond repair. About giving Josh the one thing I hadn't been able to give him until now, a family that didn't pretend to be perfect, but chose to stay anyway. I tucked the photo into the side of the mirror in the hallway, the one where I hang my keys. Not to hide it, but to remind me that healing doesn't always come with grand gestures. Sometimes it's a shared plate, a seat offered at the table, a letter read in the quiet of a house you fought hard to keep. And sometimes it's your son looking up at you, asking a question not with fear, but hope. And you finally having the courage to say, yes, she's coming back. We all are. That night, I turned out the lights, closed the blinds, but I left the porch light on. Not because anyone asked, just because now there's a door in this house that never stays locked. Because family, when it's real, doesn't knock twice. It just comes home, eventually. And this time, we opened the door and let it in.